Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I am going to go ahead and get us started. I know we will have a few more friends joining us, but I don't want to hold everyone too late. So thank you guys for being here. My name is Marina Delajanis, and I serve as the Deputy Water Resources Director for the Lake County Watershed Protection District. And we are elated to share with you an update regarding our Big Valley Groundwater Basin. This is our first public meeting. We'll be having another meeting taking place tomorrow at 6 p.m. Same information, same folks will be presenting, just at a different time. So if you just have so much fun today, you're more than welcome to join us tomorrow. We would love all the friendly faces. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I will let my team who will be presenting today do quick introductions. But I'm gonna kindly ask if you guys could please wait till the very end. We do have time for Q&As, but I wanna make sure that we are all able to present our slides. And again, I don't wanna hold everyone too long. So again, my name is Marina Delajanis. I serve as Deputy Director, and my role with Groundwater with Lake County Water Resources is I serve as the point of contact for our Big Valley GSA. So I'm going to go ahead and let our Director, Scott DeLeon, just say a real quick hi and introduction. Take it away, Scott.
Good afternoon, everyone. Scott DeLeon, Public Works, Water Resources, Community Development Director. Happy to be here and look forward to the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Go ahead, William.
Hello, everybody. I'm William Fox. I'm Lake County Water Resources Program Coordinator, and I'm happy to talk to you guys about some of the historical investigations as well as the known conditions in Big Valley Groundwater Basin today.
Thank you, William.
Hi, everyone. My name is Matthew Jackson. I'm a Water Resources Technician here at the county, and I will be going over SGMA compliance within the Big Valley Basin.
Go ahead, Christy.
Hello, everyone. I'm Christy Heron-Clark, and I am a Public Affairs Specialist with Stantec Consulting, and we are working with the Lake County Water Resources folks under a contract with the state.
Maritza.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maritza Flores. I'm also with Stantec, supporting the Lake County team, working along Christy through Department of Water Resources Facilitation Support Services.
Great, thank you, everyone. Next slide, please. All right, so just a very quick overview of what we're going to be touching base on today. So again, we're going to be covering our Big Valley Groundwater Basins and in terms of our SGMA compliance, which is our Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. We will also be talking about the characterization and the hydrology of our basin, just doing a very quick overview of that. And then of course, discussing the Big Valley GSA, GSP next steps. So again, we will be taking questions at the end. And I would like to just let everyone know that this presentation will be available on our Water Resources website, which I will have that link available at the very end, and any contact information that you guys may have. And then of course we will adjourn. But if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to us and we will answer those either at the end of the meeting, or if you have follow-up questions, we'll have our contact information that you can also reach out to us. So I'm going to pass it over to William to get us started. Thank you, William.
Again, I'm William Fox. I'm the Water Resources Program Coordinator with the county. And I think before I dive into it, I'd like to define a couple key terms, such as groundwater basin, like Big Valley. It's defined as an aquifer or aquifers formed through water-deposited erosive processes, such as the physical processes in a river channel or on a floodplain, with a well-defined boundary in both the lateral and horizontal direction. An aquifer is an underground layer of water-bearing permeable rock fractures, or unconsolidated materials such as gravel, sand, and silt. Now, some other good terms to define will be a confined aquifer, which is an aquifer below the land surface with impermeable materials both above and below the aquifer. An unconfined aquifer is an aquifer where the groundwater is in direct contact with the atmosphere through open pore spaces of overlying rock or soil. A semi-confined aquifer is an aquifer partially overlain by rock formation with low permeability through which water can only pass slowly to recharge the aquifer. The upper groundwater surface in an unconfined aquifer is called the water table. Now, understanding the groundwater of Big Valley has been a long-term process for the county as well as the whole department as a whole. And the first investigation into the recharge dynamics of Big Valley was carried out in 1967 by the soil mechanics and foundation engineers. Their aim was to, 1, determine the technical feasibility of carrying out supplemental recharge of groundwater in Big Valley, 2, to define the groundwater geology and hydrology of Big Valley, and 3, to develop a preliminary plan for groundwater replenishment in Big Valley. This plan also outlined the need for the Kelsey Creek detention structure. A second report was completed in 2003, prepared by Christensen and Associates to provide up-to-date information needed for planning and management. These documents helped form the Lake County Watershed Protection District Groundwater Management Plan, and all of these documents, along with a host of others, will be used to form the Big Valley Groundwater Sustainability Plan, which we will be submitting in early 2022. Now, this map clearly defines the outline of Big Valley Groundwater Basin, like we were talking about on that first slide, the boundary and the horizontal directions, as well as you can clearly see the Big Valley Fault, which separates the 2 distinct areas of recharge. The Big Valley Fault is a late quaternary fault, which means it has moved in the past 1.6 million years. Now, aquifer recharge in Big Valley is comprised of these 2 distinct areas. The younger basin deposits in the north, which comprise aquifer 1 or A1 and aquifer 2 or A2. And the second area is the raised uplands and the Kelseyville Formation in the southern and western portion, which hold aquifer 3 or A3 in the volcanic ash aquifer. These 2 recharge areas are separated by this Big Valley Fault, which created the uplands in the south. Now, there's 4 major aquifers within Big Valley. The A1, which you can clearly see here, which is overlays much of the northern portion of Big Valley Basin and is comprised of gravel, sand, and silt, ranging from depths of 10 to 126 feet in thickness. The A1 aquifer is generally unconfined except near or under Clear Lake, where it's confined by an overlying clay layer. And here you can clearly see Clear Lake exposed at the surface for the A1 aquifer, but the C1 layer is the clay confining unit, which underlines Clear Lake and confines the A1 aquifer. The A2 aquifer is directly below the A1 aquifer, except separated by a confining clay layer C2. It ranges from 14 to 140 feet in thickness and is likely comprised of those same deposits or similar deposits of gravel, sand, and silt. The A2 aquifer is generally confined or semi-confined. Now, the A3 aquifer is in much of the uplands of the southern portion of Big Valley and is underlain by those similar deposits of gravel, sand, and silt. The A3 aquifer is generally confined because it's open to the Earth's atmosphere and ranges from 5 to 160 feet in thickness. The volcanic ash aquifer is directly below that A3 aquifer, except with another confining clay unit separating the 2 aquifers. The volcanic ash aquifer ranges from 2 to 5 feet in thickness, except with thickness as high as 50 feet reported in 2 wells. This aquifer consists of volcanic tuff, and water throughout the aquifer is confined. Now, the majority of recharge of groundwater in the A1 and A2 aquifers is from infiltration of surface flow of the Kelsey and Adobe creeks into the aquifer system. Additional recharge to the A1 and A2 aquifers occurs from percolation of rainfall and underflow of the A3 aquifer. The A1 aquifer may also receive recharge from Clear Lake during the summer when pumping has lowered the groundwater level below that level of Clear Lake. The A3 aquifer is recharged from percolation of rainfall and infiltration of Kelsey Creek. Recharge to the volcanic ash aquifer is poorly understood, but is thought to be recharged from underflow of the uplands and infiltration of streamflow at surface exposures of the volcanic ash. Now, this is a technical drawing described by Christensen Associates in the 2003 groundwater investigation. And I really like this diagram because it really does show the variability of Big Valley throughout the basin. And you can see how the stratigraphy varies throughout the system. And this is even more dramatic when you pull up the fence diagram where you see the variability within the Big Valley Basin varying in the horizontal direction dramatically. So with that being said, there's still so much unknown about Big Valley Groundwater Basin. And to that end, we're excited to bring on a consultant to better understand, plan, and manage this invaluable natural resource. Thank you.
Hi, so my name is Maritza. I'm part of the Stantec team supporting Lake County through the Facilitation Support Services. And at this point, I'll go ahead and provide a high-level overview of what is the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act and how it applies specifically to Big Valley Basin. So if you want to go to the next slide. So the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act was signed back in 2014 by Governor Brown. And essentially, it's a 3-bill legislation focused on groundwater sustainability. Most importantly, it recognizes that groundwater management is best accomplished at a local level. If we move on to the next slide, we can see that there are 515 groundwater basins that went through a groundwater basin prioritization process. And so through this basin prioritization process, these basins were ranked from being very low to low, medium, and high priority. And so Big Valley Basin, here we can see, I believe this is color coded. If they're orange, they're medium priority, and Big Valley Basin has been identified as a medium priority basin as a result of that groundwater basin prioritization process. If we move on to the next slide, we can cover some of the terms that will be frequently mentioned throughout this presentation. Here we see SGMA, and that stands for the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. And essentially that's a representation of the 3-bill legislative package that provides a framework for sustainable groundwater management. Another word that you'll hear throughout this presentation is GSA, and that stands for Groundwater Sustainability Agency. And that essentially is the established entity that will be tasked with managing the SGMA activities moving forward. Another term you'll hear is a GSP, and that stands for Groundwater Sustainability Plan. And this is essentially the plan that will provide a local roadmap for the groundwater basin to reach long-term sustainability as identified by the Department of Water Resources. If we now move to the next slide. Here we can see a timeline that essentially will provide the basin to reach groundwater sustainability moving on to the year 2042. There are, as we can see, several SGMA requirements, but here we can see that the ones in orange are the ones that are applicable specifically to Big Valley Basin. So currently, the Big Valley Basin has established their Groundwater Sustainability Agency, and it's working towards developing their Groundwater Sustainability Plan. Remember that the Groundwater Sustainability Plan will serve as a local guide to meet groundwater sustainability by the year 2042, specifically for Big Valley Basin. And the Big Valley GSA will ultimately submit this Groundwater Sustainability Plan by January 22. And then it will be updated every 5 years. And as I said, they will have 20 years to reach groundwater sustainability by the year 2042 as outlined in this timeline. If we move on now to the next slide, we can see here a quick overview of the main roles and responsibilities of the local or the groups involved to meet groundwater sustainability moving forward. And so here we can see that the local agency is and will be represented by the Big Valley Basin Groundwater Sustainability Agency, the GSA. The California Department of Water Resources, or DWR, will provide guidance and assistance throughout the process, and they are the ones who will review and submit the plan. The California State Water Resources Control Board will only step in if the local efforts fail. So if there's no groundwater sustainability agency, if there's no GSP submitted, they will step in. As long as the basin is working together to achieve groundwater sustainability goals, and the state board will not step in. If we move on to the next slide, here we have items that I've already covered, but essentially the Big Valley Basin is a medium priority basin, and the Groundwater Sustainability Plan will essentially be a roadmap. But I want to point out a plus for Big Valley Basin is that is the last bullet point, that there's only one GSA in this whole region. It's not like in the Central Valley where there's multiple GSAs working together or multiple GSPs that have to meet the common goal of reaching sustainability by a specific timeline. If we move on to that next slide. And so here on this image, it's a high level overview on the different steps towards developing a groundwater sustainability plan and the actual implementation process to reach sustainability moving forward. And ultimately, the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act will provide the necessary framework to help meet that sustainability by the year 2042 for Big Valley Basin. And so if we move on to the last slide, the important takeaways from this is that there is a local effort for Big Valley Basin to meet sustainability. The plan will be developed locally and will essentially provide a roadmap. We all have the same goal to keep groundwater management at a local level. So have management at the local level, no state level involvement. And ultimately in doing this, we will achieve groundwater sustainability within the next 20 years. At this point, I'll go ahead and hand over the presentation to Matt, in which he will provide a more detailed association of SGMA to Big Valley Basin. Thanks.
All righty. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for attending. My name is Matthew Jackson, and I'm the Water Resources Technician. Some of my roles within groundwater include gathering some well data, managing the website, and doing some public outreach. So these next few slides will be building on Stantec's presentation by providing an overview on why Big Valley Basin must comply with SGMA. So as we can see, back in June of 2016, DWR adopted the regulations for evaluating groundwater sustainability plans. So step one was to form local groundwater sustainability agencies, and in August of 2019, Big Valley GSA was formed. And so now step 2 and 3 is where we're headed. Step 2, Big Valley GSA is to adopt a groundwater sustainability plan and be managed by that plan by January 31st of 2022. Now with step 3, Big Valley GSA is to achieve their groundwater sustainability goal 20 years after the adoption of the GSP, which puts us at about January 31st, 2042. So essentially the GSP lays out the path that the basin will take to achieve that sustainable groundwater management within 20 years. And next slide, please. So a basin's prioritization is based on several components such as population and rate of growth, public supply wells, total wells, irrigated acreage, groundwater reliance, impacts, and habitat and other information. And so these factors are then totaled and the basins are ranked as either high, medium, low, or very low priority. Those basins which are ranked as high or medium priority are subject to SGMA, meaning they must form GSAs and develop GSPs. And so as we can see here on the left of this slide, Big Valley received a total of 20 points, designated the basin as medium priority. And so this information is available to the public. And so you can visit the prioritization dashboard by using the link provided in this slide. But an important note here is that the designation of medium priority does not mean that the basin is not being managed well or that it's impaired. It simply means that the groundwater basin scored high on factors that indicate that the basin is an important and critical source for the overlying cities and farms. And in fact, that many medium and priority basins are managed well. Next slide, please. So some of the things that we're doing include monthly groundwater measurements for about 10 wells throughout the basin that we think provide a good representation of the groundwater within the basin. These measurements strictly include depth to groundwater, which gives groundwater elevations that are used to determine long-term averages. We're also doing semi-annual groundwater reading with, taking place in the spring and the fall for about 40 different wells within the basin. And of those 40 wells, 9 are reported to CASGM. CASGM is short for California statewide groundwater elevation monitoring, which is a tool that tracks seasonal and long-term groundwater elevation trends and groundwater basins statewide. And so calcium data is available to the public and can be assessed by visiting the link provided on this slide. And then additional technical work will be completed by the awarded consultant. Next slide, please. Now, SGMA defines sustainable groundwater management as the management and use of groundwater that can be maintained without causing undesirable results. Undesirable results, as defined by SGMA, include persistent lowering of groundwater levels, significant and unreasonable reductions in groundwater storage, significant and unreasonable saltwater intrusion, of which we won't have to worry about in this basin, significant and unreasonable degradation of water quality, significant and unreasonable land subsidence, and surface water depletion having significant and unreasonable effects on beneficial uses. Now, what is considered significant and unreasonable is left for the local GSAs and stakeholders to decide. Next slide, please. Now, SGMA establishes a broad framework for local agencies to manage groundwater, giving local agencies some flexibility about how to achieve sustainability, as well as how sustainability is defined in local context. Although the state is supporting with funding, it is important to maintain the local control of groundwater. And so SGMA has defined roles for the agencies involved, and here in the blue circle, GSAs are tasked with developing a GSP to manage the groundwater basin. In order to effectively implement those plans, SGMA provides new tools and authorities, including requiring registration of groundwater wells, measuring and limiting groundwater extractions, imposing fees for groundwater management, and enforcing the terms of a groundwater sustainability plan. And now SGMA has tasked the Department of Water Resources, as seen in the yellow circle, with developing regulations to revise groundwater basin boundaries, adopting regulations for evaluating and implementing GSPs, identifying basins subject to critical conditions or overdraft, identifying water available for groundwater replenishment, and publishing best management practices for the sustainable management of groundwater. DWR is also tasked with evaluating GSPs for adequacy. Now, for the enforcement purposes, as seen in the red circle, the legislation allows for the intervention by the State Water Board in instances where the GSA does not complete a plan by the mandated deadline of 2022, or if the plan is deemed inadequate by DWR and remains so after efforts to cure the deficiencies, or the plan being implemented simply does not work. So it is important to note that if the State Water Board must intervene when in the management of a groundwater basin, the board must assess fees to recover the costs incurred in administering a probationary basin. Next slide, please. So how can you participate? First, you can determine what groundwater basin you reside in by simply entering your address into the link provided in the first bullet point. Next, if you haven't already done so, please visit our website and fill out the interested parties form, where you'll receive automated notifications of meetings like these and opportunities to engage in the process. It's also important to attend these meetings and workshops to provide any comments or input. Again, thank you all for being here today, and now I'll hand it back over to Marina.
All right, thank you, Matthew. Hello again, everyone. My name is Marina De La Janis, and I serve as the Deputy Water Resources Director for the Lake County Water Resources Department. And I also serve as the person of contact for our Big Valley GSA. So as Maritza mentioned, SGMA is comprised of 3 bill packages, and that is AB 1739, SB 1168, SB 1319. And the overarching goal of SGMA is to provide local agencies such as ourselves the framework for managing groundwater basins in a sustainable manner. So the legislation does acknowledge that groundwater is best managed locally, and so it requires local agencies called GSAs, Groundwater Sustainability Agencies. And thank you, Maritza, for outlining all those acronyms. We love acronyms in the California water world. To develop groundwater sustainability plans, GSPs, and there will not be a pop quiz at the end of this conversation, so do not worry, but maybe next time, to ensure that we are maintaining that local control of the groundwater basin. Next slide, please. So introducing our Groundwater Sustainability Agency, on August 27th of 2019, the Lake County Board of Supervisors, acting as the Board of Directors of the Lake County Watershed Protection District, held a public hearing and adopted the resolution approving the formation of the Big Valley GSA, where the Board of Directors of the Lake County Watershed Protection District sit as the Big Valley GSA and coordinate closely with the board-elected Big Valley GSA Advisory Committee. So as we can see here from this graphics, our GSA is comprised of our Board of Supervisors, and that is Supervisor Bruno Sabatier, Supervisor Eddie Crandall, Supervisor Tina Scott, Supervisor Moke Simon, and Supervisor Jessica Peiska. So the Big Valley GSA is committed to working with regional and local partners to sustainably manage the groundwater resources within the Big Valley Groundwater Basin. Next slide, please. So through our facilitation support services that we were awarded through DWR, again, we've been working closely with Stantec Consulting Services to have these conversations and stakeholder assessments with some of our Big Valley Groundwater Basin stakeholders. So as you can see from this graphic, some of the stakeholder interviews that we've held and had conversations with include representatives from the Lake County Farm Bureau, Big Valley Band of Pomo Indians, the Tri-Council for the Clear Lake Hitch, the Lake County Special Districts, Kelseyville Unified School District, and private well owners. So again, having these stakeholder assessments and having these conversations, we can get a better idea of who needs to sit on the advisory committee. So once that advisory committee is formed, again, it's a board elected committee, we can ensure that we have the right voices at the table. So the overall goal for our stakeholder engagement and communication is to leverage that internal knowledge and ensure active and effective stakeholder engagement and knowledge. And one fun fact about these stakeholder assessments that were completed by Stantec is we found out that we have around 37 years of average knowledge of folks living in the basin and also having knowledge of the basin. So that really does put us ahead because it just shows how dedicated and commitment and how much knowledge we have of our groundwater basin, which I think is super cool. And of course, we can utilize that for our GSP development. Next slide, please. So now I'd like to touch a little bit on the actual GSP development. So one step of our GSP development is our stakeholder engagement and outreach. Again, that is where we have been putting a lot of our focus now to make sure we include that stakeholder engagement outreach in our groundwater sustainability plan. So in 2019, we were also awarded in 2020 from the same grant, we were applied for Proposition 68 Sustainable Groundwater Management Grant Program, and we were awarded a little bit under $1.4 million with a $0 cost share. And all these funds that we were awarded through DWR's Proposition 68 Sustainable Groundwater Management Program are being used to onboard a consultant to help us with our Big Valley Groundwater Sustainability Plan development and implementation. So as we are working with our consultant, bringing them on board, we are tentatively planning on awarding that consultant March 16th to ensure that we have as much time as we can to meet that January 31st, 2022 deadline. The state and other agencies have listed out resources and guidelines that we need to follow. Again, I will not dive deep into the specifics, but I will have that link available. One being the resource guide for the groundwater sustainability plan, and you can see the steps. They outline the steps, the criteria, what we need to meet to develop our GSP. So again, we are planning on awarding our consultant next week to help us develop that GSP. And the goal of the project, which is the GSP development, is to build upon previous efforts, as Matthew and William and the rest of the members of the team had said, to conduct all tasks necessary to complete and submit a GSP while leveraging that public engagement and collecting the best available data and information of the groundwater basin to develop and adopt and implement the Big Valley GSP by January 31st, 2022. So again, in this GSP, we have to meet the requirements and deadlines outlined in SGMA and DWR's final GSP emergency regulations guide. Again, it's really nice that we have these guides available. And then we also have the critically overdraft basins who have submitted GSPs that we can look at and see what other fellow basins throughout the state have put into their GSP development. Also incorporating the needs and knowledge from local stakeholders. Again, we have a lot of internal knowledge and a lot of communications with our wonderful stakeholders in the basin, along with the Big Valley GSA and the Big Valley GSA Advisory Committee, using best available technical and scientific information from the history of data collection and studies previously conducted with the basin. So again, as Matthew touched on briefly, we do constant well monitoring. We have some well monitoring dating back to the 60s. So we do have a lot of good data collected that we will be utilizing and implementing in our GSP development. And again, also leveraging limited available funding and resources for the development and implementation of the GSP. So again, looking for grants similar to this Prop 68 DWR Sustainable Groundwater Management Grant is helping us to not only develop this GSP, but also implementing this GSP. Next slide, please. Thank you. All right, so what have we done and where are we going? So again, our goal is to award a consultant by March 16th of 2021 to aid in our Big Valley GSP development and implementation. From now until the deadline, and hopefully after the deadline as well, our January 31st, 2022 deadline, continue having these monthly meetings with our GSA, our advisory committee, and our stakeholders. And again, we will have those resources readily available. We welcome folks to the table and participate in the fun of GSP development. Again, from 3/21 to 1/31/22. Again, developing our Big Valley GSP development, following the criteria and requirements as under SGMA by utilizing our resources that we have available and the data that we've had completed and compiling that data. And again, also looking at the long term. So whatever we promise and whatever we put in our GSP, we also have to make sure that we implement it. So applying for funds, DWR does have a grant, another Prop 68 grant, and this is an implementation grant. So whatever we outline in our GSP, we have to make sure that we meet that criteria. So the fund doesn't stop after January 31st, 2022. This is a long-term effort. As Maritza mentioned, we definitely have to, do reporting every X amount of years, but also ensuring that we keep this effective and constant communication with our stakeholders, again, to ideally meet the end goal by 2042, achieving groundwater sustainability. Next slide, please. So here on the slide, I have our contact information. Please feel free to call us, reach out to us, send us a passenger pigeon, whatever it may be, socially distance meet us. If you have any questions regarding Big Valley, we are going to do everything that we can to ensure that folks are kept in the loop and able to participate in these conversations. I also have provided some links from the State Water Resources Control Board and the California Department of Water Resources. We also have an opt-in sheet that if you do put in your email address, you can see whether you're in the basin or not, but you can sign up to receive constant emails from us regarding our Big Valley GSA and GSP development, and that is available on our Water Resources website. Again, this presentation will be available there as well, but now I would like to open it up for any questions that anyone may have. And if you do have a question, you can either type it in the chat box or you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Marina, can you hear me?
I can, yes. Hi, Pat.
Hey, how are you doing? I just wondered, do you have a listserv started for like an email listserv? Just curious.
Yes, we do. We do have an email listserv going, and we have had some folks in the basin and even outside of the basin who have already signed up for that listserv.
Great.
Thank you. And thank you, Pat, for your comment in the chat. I appreciate that. All right, anyone else? I won't hold my breath. When I get excited, I hold my breath sometimes. If there are no more questions, I will stay on until 1 p.m. just in case anyone has anything, but feel free to hop off. Again, thank you everyone so much for joining. We are going to be doing this not the same time or the same place via Zoom. The link is different though. So if you do need that agenda again or that link, we are going to be having the same meeting tomorrow, 6 to 7 p.m. via Zoom. So if you think of a question and you want to come back tomorrow, or if you don't have a question, please feel free to come back tomorrow. But these presentations will be available on our Water Resources website. And again, feel free to call us or email us if you have any questions whatsoever regarding Big Valley, sustainable groundwater management, or anything that we can help with. Thank you, Donna, for that comment.
Great meeting. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Well, you can go ahead and stop sharing your screen if you want. And if we do have a question, we can reshare it. Thank you. Thank you for doing that, William.
Very well done.
Do you have any questions, Scott?
No. Well, no, I don't. But one of the things that I want you to not be discouraged about is, I mean, you didn't have much participation today. I think you'll get more tomorrow evening. So I think today was a good opportunity to kind of run through the timing of it and your presentation and so I would expect a lot more folks tomorrow night. But I thought it was very well done. Some great information, flowed really well. Just kind of set the groundwork for the future. So yeah, looked good.
Thank you, yeah, for that little input as well. I was nervous when I didn't see as many folks hopping on, but I figured it's just going to be a virtual party tomorrow night, hopefully. And I do want to make sure that we post this also on the Facebook as well and have the slides and the recording available on the website.
As people gain more and more awareness of what groundwater is and how it's relevant to the basin, you'll see the momentum starts to build. So definitely with the second set of public meetings that we do in May is what we're slated for. I think there will be a lot more participation then as well as people start to understand it.
I mean, I would be more than happy to have groundwater meetings every day if possible.
But we got to kick it off at Groundwater Awareness Week, so that's
I
always a fun
know.
thing.
So,
Did you all see the materials yet? Have you looked at the new materials?
No, I could only, so I was trying to find some banners for our Water Resources Facebook page. I could only find the National Groundwater Resource Association. They had some stuff. I try to look on DWR, but is it on there now?
It is, but the way that they do it, the sub landing pages, the tabs that you open under the communication and engagement don't have their own URL. So you have to just open up the little sub bullet point, but the story map, the ArcGIS story map is on there and ready to go. And that can be shared. So we could always post that too, a link to that on the website, and then you'll see the media relations and social media guidebook. I don't think we really need that so much. I think we're going to be okay in that realm. Another neat little piece that's on there too is the underrepresented user, which is kind of where DWR is going with disadvantaged community is what the regulations call it, but underrepresented users, and then those toolkit elements will be built out. So there's more coming. There's some others that are coming.
Oh man, I'm a fan of toolkits.
Yeah, the story map is really neat, is really, really neat. And it's just one of those things that you scroll through and it's got the enabled maps and it's got layers and it talks about how groundwater impacts different infrastructure around it and how it integrates with it. It's a really neat little piece.
Yeah, I would like to have, and I've talked with William and Matthew about this, but to have story map just for Big Valley GSA.
Yes.
So what has happened, where we, the data that we've collected, that includes also the wells that we monitor as well. And then in terms of our Big Valley GSP development, because I would like that to be right on the Big Valley groundwater
Sure.
page, the first thing you see, because story maps, they tell a story, and it's easy to follow along with, and I'm a huge fan of them.
So story maps has some costs associated with it in terms of the administrators who actually assemble it and put it together. But the elements of something like that, we can absolutely pull together. What we would take is as we build towards all of our engagement and outreach tools, we would be able to put those things together and then just to kind of assemble the package and then figure out the administrator. So Stantec is the one who developed that for DWR, the story map for DWR. So we have knowledge of like how it all gets put together and everything, but it takes a certain particular kind of administrator to pull it together, but the elements we could absolutely put together in advance of that.
So we did just upgrade our ArcGIS Online to where I think we have the full access of the story maps? I know prior you were
Oh.
kind of limited. So is that what you're talking about, Christine?
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's a little convoluted in how they do it, and it depends on what level you are. There's like 5 levels, and then there's permissions that are associated with each of those levels. So if it's a full-blown administrator license, then yeah, if that came with your ArcGIS, then absolutely. And then we would just need to pull together the different elements that we have. But like William, some of the stuff that you used in your presentation is fantastic for that effect, to put it together. And then Matthew, your stuff is the great local stuff that we could put to it too. So yeah, a lot of elements we already have in existence. Let me.
William, do you know which ArcGIS license we have? I'm on our member page.
I'm pretty sure we do have capabilities to post that, because we do have an AGLE that Ryan has been manipulating, messing with, and we've started collecting well data with Survey 123, and hopefully we can have like live well data on our website as well of the 10 wells that me and Matt go out to monitor every month. So, and I was able to append all the historical data to it, so we have all that data from 1960 on Survey 123 as well.
Cool beans.
I'll pop the landing page of that into the chat here.
Awesome. Thank you.
And then again, you have to go down, you have to scroll down to Communication and Engagement Toolkit and open that up, and then scroll down and you'll see all the little buttons for all the new things that came this week because of Groundwater Awareness Week.
Okay.
I know that, so when DWR sends out, is it their weekly or bi-weekly
Yeah.
email thread? It's like, here's
Yeah, the
what's new.
Sigmo Blast, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I get so excited when I see those pop up in my inbox.
So it's under if you go under that toolkit, it's the second one under Public Awareness Library. The other thing too is they launched a new video that the Public Affairs Office put together too for DWR that we could make use of as well. So any of those things, Matthew, that you want to link into the website, we can certainly do that.
Okay, cool.
Oh boy, this is a cool story map. Should I share my screen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It may lag just a little bit as you scroll through it, Marina, but if you just stall on it and then just keep going, it'll free up for you.
Is it okay? Is it looking fine?
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
You want to know how many times I edited that particular graphic?
How many? Why? What was your trouble with it?
We just really were fine tuning a lot of things associated with it. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. So there's an easy way to tackle this from just a management standpoint of how we manage this kind of thing. But absolutely, if we can get administrator clearance to be able to develop this, I think we have a lot of the tools to be able to create something like this.
Yeah, this would be ideal, especially as we're transitioning just water resources in itself. We're trying to utilize more of the ArcGIS online platform, and as William said, we have just been diving deep into that. Our technicians as well. So for a variety of our programs and projects.
Fun story about that picture. Originally, it was a picture of Craig Moyle's parents' backyard and their well. We decided to upgrade it to an easier to see picture.
Well, I was going to say that I'm offended that you didn't reach out to us. So yes, we're water resources, but little do you know that we're also kind of models.
Well, and that is so funny that you say that, because I did say that. I said, hey, if we can't find one, I'll bet you Lake County has them because of all the well runs that they do. So
yeah, we're a fan of photo ops.
So where's that picture from then, Christy? Is it Central Valley?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It was in part of another thing that DWR has done too that I think is really neat is they created a new, they call it a pixel library that has all of the access to the photos that are stock photos for things to use. And that is now on their DWR overall landing page. That library is there. And so we can pick and pull any graphics from that. I have to say, I think this is one of my particular favorite graphics of all of it, where it shows that illustration of the groundwater underneath. And I would love to develop something like that for Lake County specific, for Big Valley Basin. Maybe, William, the picture that you had right off the front of yours, if we could develop something like that. And that's an absolute possibility for us to do.
Yes, I really, and that's one thing that, you know, as William was uploading his graphics and making his presentation, I really like showing the different layers, so the aquifers like C1, C2, because it's easy just to read it, but then actually visually seeing it, and then also how it ties in directly up, you know, here's Kelsey Creek, here is, you know, Clear Lake, here's etc. I like being able to tie it in because it not only demonstrates, oh, okay, that's actually us, but it also gives more of that personal connection to it. So folks who are participating or looking at it, they're like, oh, okay, my farm's right there. Oh, my well's right there. You know, I grew up playing on that spot, hitting the hitch with the bats because they at one point had a lot
There's
of
so
fish.
many.
Oh,
Yeah, you could
Leon,
sing about salmon.
I'm not
Yeah.
seeing any sort of face movement with them. So then did you guys make all these graphics as well?
So there were some of them that we pulled from technical memos that had been created. So this graphic we created from scratch.
I
And
like
then, so what happens to this is as you go ahead and keep scrolling, as you scroll, you'll see that it changes on what the undesirable like results are and what the potential threats are. So it changes as you go through it. And so it was just 8 layers that we did, and then it just loops it as you go through in the actual story map software.
This is pretty cool. I feel like I'm at a museum, and you know how they have like those interactive things, you like click on one, it's like underwater scene, and this is at like X amount of thousand feet below the ocean surface, and that's super
It
cool.
really brings it alive. You know, that's the thing about Story Map that's so nice is it takes it from being a static product to, I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do. You can thread video into these. You can do a lot of different things. And so here, like the portals, you can link to them where people can look at just a certain thing, what it comes up with, and then you can actually tootle around in it while you're there. Just lots of different inputs that you can do with the Story Map.
So cool. Oh.
You know, I could see something too, if we're talking about beneficial users within Lake County, I could see something that is a spatial data representation of the different types of beneficial users. So maybe it's well locations talking about the domestic well owners, or it could be disadvantaged community. We could have that layer come up, and then they could even be linked into the different tools that allow you to identify the different beneficial users that already exist. So there's some different elements that we could do that way too.
And another thing I like about story maps is you can build off of them. So, you know, if you want to add something on later at the end, you can just add on to it and it's there.
Yes.
Instead of having to like re-upload it or, you know.
Yeah, and you can pull off different parts of it too. And so, I mean, it just makes it nice for contemporary as new, like, so like the Bulletin 118 stuff is going to come out, the new stuff. So you just thread that new information in and
That's us. Cool beans. This is super cool.
Were you talking about with the story maps that we need specific permissions to host it, because we definitely do have story maps, like the package that contains story maps, but I
Okay.
just didn't know if you needed like additional permissions to host than the story maps.
Well, so there are different levels of story map. And so you can be an editor, you can be a creator, there's like a field one for people in the field can upload with an app. But then there's all kinds of crazy real-time analytics and data that can be threaded into it, which gets really exciting. And as more and more of that comes online, the more we'll be able to do that. But there is a master administrator license to it, and that even has 4 different elements to it. And
Jeez.
so how much you can do, that's how they sell the packages, because they can upsell you for the different things. But what I would say is that if we have an interest in doing this and there's the capability that you have that package already, we can look at what package you have, determine what we can do within that package, and then see if we might be able to leverage some extra help. So DWR is the one who hosted this particular one for us. We created it. Our ArcGIS person at Stantec created it. And then DWR is the one who had the master administrator license.
So we do, it looks like we have an admin license, I'm pretty
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
So we should, and
Yeah,
this
so
is a cool
let's-
dashboard that Ryan's made, but it would be cool, like you do, like scroll down, and it goes in right now into crew checkout. So when we leave the office, we check out via this. But like you said, if we can just scroll down and
Sure.
have all of the interactive maps, and that would be very nice.
Completely. And all of those things exist. So it's not like we're having to recreate, we might want some individual graphics to be able to create it alongside of it, and we can get you resources for that. One of the things, I think it's just all us here, right? So one of the things too is, Marina, did you ever talk to Aaron? I know you were going to talk to Noah, but then it switched over. Did you ever talk to Aaron about our ability to leverage that $50K that you saved in reserve to be able to do hard costs for things?
No, but I can reach out to her. I should be following up with her by the end of the week.
Yeah, she may not know, but just ask her to look into that, because if we can make use of some of those funds to support public outreach and engagement in this respect, if there is anything that we need to pay additional for, that would be a really wise use of it. I just don't know what the parameters are around that granted money I think because you held it in reserve, you can use it for any communication, engagement, and outreach that you deem necessary, but I don't know how that is with hard costs.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I'll triple check with Erin. If she does have to check, she usually gets back to me pretty quickly. If she doesn't know, she's like, let me just check with my higher ups, and I'll get right back to you. So
yeah.
Okay, I'll send her an email.
And then William, if you want to talk to Ryan and see if he knows, if he has the full blown one, then that would be great. That would get us so much farther down the road. Yeah, forget the statewide one. We're doing our own. We're making it local, folks.
All right, I don't want to keep you guys on any longer since it's just us. Is there anything else we need to discuss internally?
Great presentation. Awesome job.
Yeah, good job, everyone. That was
just
awesome.
So proud.
Thank
Really,
you.
really proud of everyone, and just the right amount of information. I think that it's really easy to dive into this and just acronym soup, and everybody just kind of like, what? But and we had some of our stakeholders join on. I took a screenshot of the participants, and I also took a screenshot of the chat. So I have those, and then just recorded that Pat was the only one who asked a question to confirm that we had, they call it listserv, we call it the opt-in, because that is a requirement that we have to, and that's why she asked that.
Yeah, which I thought it was funny because she was the first one to sign up for our listserv. I did actually just get some questions from Donna.
Okay.
With the Autobahn. So I don't think she wanted to ask them. She's like, I'm still relatively new to groundwater. So I can also send those to the team as well. But Christy, if you don't mind, can you please send me those screenshots? I took one screenshot, but
absolutely.
That way in our next progress report for our grant, we can include those screenshots.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, they'll become part of the record of who attended. It would just be like a sign-in sheet would have been. So the names will be recorded, and then that will become part of the meeting notes. The meeting notes won't be very extensive, but it'll have our agenda, and then it'll have all the information, and that becomes part of the public record too. That's actually one of Maritz's and my deliverables as part of the FSS, is to submit that to show for both meetings.
Christy, how important is it? I noticed when I was thumbing through and looking at who was logged in, there was, an iPhone 2 or iPad 2. And So, you know, we had a person logged in who was anonymous. How important is it? You know, I'm thinking tomorrow night, you know, how important is it to know who those people were, or if it's not just the fact that they were there? You have any guidance on that?
Yeah, there isn't anything that says that we have to out them and know exactly who they are, but it is nice, you know, we can make a mention at the beginning of the meeting that if they have an opportunity to provide us with their name, and more than anything, we like to see who we're assembling and who we're talking to, and then just kind of leave it at that. But what we would do is we would just say X number of anonymous users who logged in via, you know, this, and we'll even put what their screen name was, because sometimes they'll come up with their own screen names. I know for the Board of Supervisors meeting yesterday, there was somebody who had a really interesting screen name, but so we'll just record those to the best of our ability, and then just say, you know, in the spirit of community and us trying to build things, we'd love to know who you are. And the Audubon, having Donna there is a good thing. Audubon is a traditional representation as part of communication and engagement for all basins. Nature Conservancy is another one. You know, you just see them time and time again. So having her be integrated into this is great. And Marina, she gives you, sending that to you gives you a good opportunity to have a conversation with her and just kind of see where she's at.
So,
Yeah.
Christy, you were on yesterday during Marina's presentation, right?
I was.
Okay.
And I stayed for the clerk one right after too.
Yeah, that was riveting.
I'm very into forest management, so I was like, okay, this is interesting. It was really interesting, but
I was trying to figure out how to pull the fire alarm. But, anyway, I didn't include you in. I sent an email after Ms. Khan made her comments about how you know, she made some reference to some report from the 50s
from the USDA,
yeah, and that you know, this basin's been impaired, or I forget whatever the word, imperil, or she used some word, you know, and I was going to jump on and debate that, but I chose not to, and then so instead I sent an email to the board members and I just said, look, that's not accurate at all. So
who is she? Do you have dealings with her?
Take it away, you don't want me to answer that question.
Take it away, Scott.
I'm gonna mute myself.
She's not the woman who came in October and like spoke up. That's a different person.
But I'm sure they would get along great. I don't know if they're
I wondered where she was. I was surprised she didn't say anything.
Oh,
I was like, I wonder where she is.
So Betsy is a very dedicated and committed community volunteer. I'm looking at Scott, and she just has a lot of wealth and knowledge. She makes her I'm trying to encourage him to
No. She is a malcontent gadfly who doesn't have anything better than to just find things to complain about and poke holes in, and she's not educated. She acts like she's educated, but most of the things that she talks about or she references, she takes out of context to fit her argument.
Okay. Is she universal poke holes and things? Meaning, does she go beyond water resources? Is it like land use and everything else? Or is she really targeted at water resources?
I don't know. I know she's very, very anything water resources, anything that she can get her hands on.
She was really involved in, so the answer is it's not just water resources. She was really engaged with seniors, and she is an advocate. She calls herself an advocate for seniors.
She had a radio station. I wrote it all down. She had the radio station.
She has a radio show on
KPIZ. Okay. Because I saw that on her little picture and I meant to ask, like, what is that? And okay. All right.
Local gadfly radio station.
Good to know. Good to know.
And that's one thing that I would like to comment on. I don't know if she will be attending our public meetings, but that's something that, you know, we are strapped for time. I want to be careful with what we, you know, I don't want her to be a roadblock. I don't anticipate it, but I could easily see her trying to just interject and throw all sorts of stuff. So something
Well,
for us to keep in mind.
I think we-
Yeah,
Go
go ahead, Chrissy.
I was just gonna say, if it gets to be that kind of situation, I think we can always put some parameters that people understand, which would be like a 2-minute window to make a comment for something, and then for us to get through all the comments first and then to try to address them. It wouldn't be as buttoned up as a board of supervisors or a city council type meeting would be, but it just gives us a chance to kind of narrow down the window of time that people have to say things, because I never like to cut people off, but if we have time parameters, it automatically will cut people off. So
Marina, I see we're still recording this. This isn't being broadcast or anything. I mean, not that what I
Just kidding,
said
no,
I
it's not.
wouldn't
No,
say to
it's
her
not.
face.
It's
I'm
just
happy
save.
to say
It'll save
that,
to
but-
my computer, so I can cut out like the
All
beginning.
right.
okay.
She and just for some history, she and Sarah Ryan used to be on a committee called Clear Lake Advisory Committee, and they were relatively aligned in dislike of government and county government in particular. And the two of them kind of got sideways over just not sharing the same opinions about something. And so it'll be kind of interesting to see how far she gets into this, because I think the center of and I'm not going to use the word controversy, but the center of potential issue here with this basin is with the Native Americans and their concerns of the water use and the impacts on the surface water, and specifically the flow in the creek for the hitch. So it'll be interesting to see how far Betsy gets into this, because she will be aligning herself with Sarah, and they had a falling out a number of years ago. So
Okay.
my guess
then-
is she's not going to get too involved.
Okay.
My
And
prediction.
then Scott, did Marina share with you that there has been a consultant who's been hired for the tribe for just overall like water resources stuff for the tribe? His name is Anthony Falzone. He's from Flow West. And so Sarah sent him to me as just, hey, make sure he's on the list to be notified about meetings. And I encouraged him to sign up, and he did on the opt-in form. He shot me an email and said that he had signed up for it. I'm not assuming at this point that he would be the representative or need representation on the advisory committee or request it. I think that it would just be as an alternate or as an information backup for Sarah. And I think that he's doing more than just this particular issue for them. I think he's doing some other things. He works for some other tribal, he works for Dry Creek in Sonoma County. And he works for some of the other tribal entities. So they're a great firm, really good reputation, but just know that she has somebody who is looking out for their stuff on that end.
I know in the Big Valley Basin specifically, she has, and they've been working with, I believe, with Flow West at least since I've been here, because Anthony reached out to me early on. I think they're working on some sort of surface water and groundwater monitoring network, some sort of grant, but they're also the ones, De Leon, who are working on the fish passage ladder at Main Street. Flow West is the one compiling all that. So yeah, they're working on multiple things for Big Valley, but I believe they're only working with Big Valley in Lake County at least, but a variety of projects just outside of groundwater as well.
If he gets inserted early on in the process, I absolutely will call him and just have a conversation with him and ask him what kind of things he's doing and, how integrated he is into some of the other things that are going on. I do think that for both the agriculture side of things and for the tribal, that a better understanding of that Kelsey Creek detention is going to be a good issue for us to address early on, of what it is, how it got there, who manages it, who you go to if you have questions about it, that type of thing. I think just really addressing that head on early on is going to be important.
All right, well, I don't have anything else. I don't want to keep you guys too much longer. I think I said that like 25 minutes ago. So.
If we had